across the world, here we ensure that the real on-time news are packaged for the viewing pleasure of the people. And today we'll be looking at numbers of stories. Starting from Zimbabwe, groups of grandmothers counter alleged election intimidation on media. And this is coming from Niger. ECOWAS members stays prepared to contribute to joint force. And on Thai, ex-PM to return from exile on Tuesday. This is coming from Shaina Watra. And Ecuador government to hold presidential election on Sunday. Still from Ecuador, family of late presidential candidate accused state of murder. These and many more stories we will be discussing when we return from this short break. Stay with us. This is International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the main stories. 4 grandmothers wearing bright yellow headscarf, t-shirt and skirt huddles around a cell phone in Zimbabwe's rural Bombashwa area. They cracked at the video showing a troop of mischief bombard ripping up ruling party election posters with the face of the president on them. With a switch and cliff, 64-year-old Elizabeth Motanawa posted a video on a couple of community WhatsApp group and followed it up with some election campaign information from the party she supports in next week's election. The main opposition Citizen Coalition for Change, the grandmother says they and their fellow opposition supporters are facing intimidation for followers of the long-ruling NAZU-PF party and the biased state-running media that restrict their opinion, but they have found a way to counter with the use of WhatsApp group chats. West Africa's main bloc has agreed on a D-Day for the possible military intervention to restore democracy in Niger after General Trapp with detained President Mohamed Bazoum last month. The Economic Community of the West African States, ECOWAS, agreed on Friday to activate a standby force as the last resort if diplomatic effort fails. A senior official said without disclosing when it is, "We are ready to go anytime the order is given." ECOWAS Commissioner for Political Affairs, Peace and Security, Abdel Fattah Mosha, said during the disclosed ceremony of a 2-day meeting of West African Army Chief in Ghana's capital, Accra. The D-Day is also decided. "We have already agreed and fine-tuned what will be required for the intervention," he said, emphasizing that ECOWAS was still seeking to engage peacefully with the Nigerian military leader. "As we speak, we are still readily mediating mission into the country, so we have not shut any door." Thailand self-exiled former Prime Minister Shakin Shinawatara's plan to return to the country on Tuesday his daughter said on Saturday, prolonged political uncertainty after a main national election on Tuesday, August 22nd at 9 o'clock at Domong Airport. I will meet Father Tassin Petongrazn Sharatra, said in a social media post referring to an airport in a capital Bangkok. Tassin had previously planned to return on August 10th but postponed, citing the need for the medical checkup for the former. A former telecommunication tycoon prime from 2001 until he was ousted in the 2006 coup, leave a self-imposed exile after fleeing Thailand to avoid a jail sentence for graft in 2008. He would still be subjected to jail upon a return. Also scheduled for Tuesday is another preliminary vote for Prime Minister to be nominated by the Kasin-backed Thai party. Ecuador will hold a presidential election Sunday after a campaign marked by the mother of the top candidate and vote to tackle the lawlessness and has engulfed the once peaceful nation. The small South American country has in recent years become a playground for the foreign drugs mafia seeking to expose cocaine from its shore, stirring up a brutal war between local gangs. The moderate has soared above the Mexico or Colombia, and the assassination of several politicians in the run-up to the vote underscore the challenge facing Ecuador leaders. The most high-profile among them was presidential candidate and the anti-corruption crusader Fernando Villavicencio, gunned down in a broad daylight as he left off a political rally just day ahead of the vote. The family of the assassinated Ecuadorian president candidate Fernando Chinese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida said he will visit the tsunamis worked for Smita on Clay Planet on Sunday before setting a release date for its treat radioactive wastewater as his government continue working to promote understanding over the controversial plan at home and abroad. The government has reached the final stage where we should make a decision, Kishida told a reporter in Washington on Friday after wrapping up his summit with U.S. and South Korean leader at the American presidential retreat of Camp David. Since the government announced the release plan 2 years ago, it has faced strong opposition from Japanese fishing organizations, which worried about further damage to reputation of their seafood as they struggle to recover from the incidents. Group in South Korea and China has also released concern, turning into a political and diplomatic issue. The Chinese military launched drills around Taiwan on Saturday as they stem warning over what it called coalition between separatists and foreign forces. A defense minister said day after the island a vice president stopover in the United States. Taiwanese Vice President William Lai's recent trip to Paraguay to reinforce relations with its government's last diplomatic partner in South America included stops in San Francisco and New York City. The mainland ruling Communist Party claimed Democratic Taiwan as part of its territory and said it has no right to conduct foreign relations. A spokesperson for China, Theater Command, said in a brief statement that the military exercise involved the coordination of the vessel and plans and the ability to seize control of air and sea space. British Columbia Prime David Abbey declared a province-wide state of emergency in the reopens to unprecedented wildfire on Friday night. Evacuation order in BC expanded from 4,000 houses Friday afternoon to about 15,000 by midnight. Tonight, as a result of its rapid deterioration, we are declaring a providential state of emergency to ensure that we have rapid access to any tools that we may need to respond to the situation, British Columbia Prime David Eby said. Over 380 wildfire has been rallied since the beginning of the week throughout Western Canadian territories, according to the Canadian Interagency Forest Fire Center. 2 days before Gustamelia's president's runoff election, the Supreme Court of Justice granted a permanent injunction Friday to the Party of Progressive candidate Bernardo Arevalo, blocking a lower court order suspending the party's legal status. Court spokesman Rudy Esquivel said the order and the Supreme Electoral Tribunal to disregard the lower court ruling, which came last month after the request of the prosecutors, who said they were investigating how the party has gathered the necessary signature to register a year earlier. The High Court has earlier blocked the suspension with a temporary injunction at the request of Arevalo's seed movement. The new ruling can be appealed to Guatemala's highest tribunal, the Constitutional Court. Dominican's authority announced late Friday that they are pushing a criminal case against a plastic company based on evidence found during an investigation into the powerful explosion this week that killed at least 31 people. Police and public ministers issued a joint statement saying the blast occurred at a business called Vidal Plast rather than at a bakery, as authority had said initially. The explosion occurred Monday afternoon in a Boston commercial center in San Cristobal, a city just west of the capital of Santo Domingo. The public minister has evidence that compromises the criminal responsibility of those responsible who, with their action, accuse the death of dozens causes the death of the people and cause millions in losses, and statement says citing prosecutors Padara Rose Rubio. Brazil's federal police on Friday arrested 7 senior military police officers accused of assassinating the right-wing ruler during the June 8 attack on government building in the capital, Brasilia. Prosecutors say text message obtained from the officers' mobile phone shows Brazil's military police were aware of the attackers' intention. Not only did the officers fail to prevent the attack, says prosecutors, but they assisted the routers in their effort to oust President Luis Inácio Lula da Silva and reappointed former President Jair Bolsonaro in a coup. The United States and China has achieved what many deem impossible: a historic meeting between U.S. President Joe Biden, Japan's Prime Minister Fumio Kishida, and South Korea's President Yoon Suk-yeol. Mr. Biden hosted a FaceTime stand-alone meeting among of the 3 countries at the Camp David presidential retreat in the U.S. on Friday. It's a diplomatic but still tensionous call for the American leaders. South Korea and Japan had neighbors and old U.S. allies, but they have never been seen as friends. Now, however, an increasingly assertive China has renewed U.S. interest in East Asia, and it has brought together the country who for decades has struggled to overcome deep historic grievances. Speaking ahead of the meeting, Mr. Biden praises the political courage of the South Korean and Japanese leaders. The U.S. has approved the transfer to Ukraine of American-made F-16 fighter jets from Denmark and the Netherlands when Ukrainian pilots are fully trained to operate them. This way, Ukraine can take full advantage of its new capabilities A U.S. State Department spokesman said Ukraine praises the decision it had been pushed ahead for since last year. But it is expected to be months before Kyiv will be able to use the F-16 to try to counter Russia's air superiority. The Dutch had thought to have about 24 operational F-16, which are scheduled to be taken out of the service and replaced by more advantaged war plan. From fenderies to detecting explosive, cats and dogs have been helping Ukrainians deal with the devastating impact of Russia's invasion. Veteran the minding sniffing dog is one of them. He worked for Ukraine's state emergency service, but this mind clearance, skilled and apparently disarming charisma has also earned hundreds of thousands of followers online. He and a number of many animals, some real, some cartoon, have been offering emotional support and posting practical advice on their social media accounts. These range from guidance on how to deal with difficult feelings caused by war to tips on what to do when you see an explosive device. Russia has banned 64 British nationals and people working for UK organizations from entering the country in retaliation for UK sanctions on its citizens, its foreign ministry said. They include Culture Secretary Lucy Frazier, has International Criminal Court case prosecutors Karim Khan, a number of journalists from the Reporters, the Daily Telegram and The Guardian are also on the list. A reporter said it will continue to report independently and fairly. The Russian foreign minister said the move was in response to the aggressive implementation by the London of the hostile anti-Russian course. Frazier was sanctioned for activities lobbying for the international sport isolation of Russia, while Minister of State for Defense Annabel Goldie was described as being responsible for the supply of weapons to Ukraine. In March, the International Criminal Court issued an arrest warrant for Russian President Vladimir Putin, accusing him of the war crime of illegally dispossessing children from Ukraine, which Moscow denied. In a unique act of diplomacy, Italy government has settled the restaurant bill of 4 Italian tourists in Albania who left without paying. The dinner and dash in the city of Berat made headlines in both countries. The Carter prompted Albania Prime Minister Edi Rama to raise it with his Italian counterpart, Giorgia Meloni, while she was visiting the country. She responded by telling her ambassador to go and pay the bill for these idiots. He told the La Stampa newspaper Italy's embassy in Albania confirmed in a statement that it has paid the bill, reportedly around $80 on behalf of the citizen. The Italians respect the rule and pay off their debt, and we hope that the episode of this kind will not happen again. It said Italy's agriculture minister and Ms. Moleni, brothers-in-law Francesco Lollobrigida, has also on a trip to Albania and told the Reuters news agency that paying the bill was a matter of pride. A few dishonored individuals cannot embarrass a nation of decent people, he said. It is unclear when the incident happened, but security video of the group walking out of the restaurant and wandering into the night has gone viral on social media. Thousands of Haitians have fled their homes in Port-au-Prince amid soaring gun violence that has killed more than 2,400 people so far this year. The UN said 5,000 fled the Carrefour-Fleury district of the capital this week after gun members took control. Local head group has stopped vital service as government attempt to quell the violence fall flat. The UN Secretary Council will decide soon whether to send a multinational forces to help restore order in Carrefour, Frost Hills and surrounding area where there had been months of guns warfare. A stem of residents were seen carrying suitcases or living with belongings strapped to in their cars. UN human rights officials denounced Friday what they call the extreme brutality of guns in Haiti. With thousands fleeing several neighborhoods in the country capital this week aimed to surge in violence, the killing has intensified in the recent week as a resurgence mission from the Kenya composed of nearly a dozen senior police officers was expected to arrive in the Haiti on Friday, Kenyan media reports. The Eastern African country has often to lead an international forces to help Haiti unstepped and under-resourced police department quell gun violence, with only about 10,000 officers for the Caribbean nations, more than 11 million people. Deputy Inspector General of the Administration Police, Noor Gabo, who is leading the Kenyan mission, did not return a message seeking comments. Federal judges in Georgia and Texas has ruled against key provision of two controversial election law passed 2 years ago as the Republican Party sought to tighten voting rule after former President Donald Trump loses in the 2020 presidential contest. U.S. District Judge Xavier Rodriguez struck down a provision of Texas law requiring that maize voters provide the same identification numbers they have been using to register to vote. He ruled the requirement violates the U.S. Civil Rights Act because it led people to being unable to cast ballots due to the matter irrelevant to whether they are registered. A New York City drug dealer was sentenced Friday to 10 years imprisonment for providing the wire actor Michael K. Williams with fentanyl Les heroin, causing his death. Ivan Cartagena, 40 of Aliteno, Puerto Rico, was sentenced by U.S. District Judge Rania Abraham. Cartagena has pleaded guilty in April to conspiring to distribute drugs. Williams oversees in his Brooklyn Patents House apartment in September 2021. He died hours after authorities say they brought the heroin from the Cartagena on the sidewalk in Brooklyn's Williamsburg neighborhood to deal recorded by the security camera. Williams famously portrayed Mo Little, the robber of drug dealers, in HBO The Wire, which ran from 2002 to 2008. In addition to his work on the critical acclaimed drama, Williams also starred in film and other TV series such as Boardwalk Empire. Law enforcement officials are anticipating that former President Trump will surrender at the Fonacoti, Georgia jail no earlier than Thursday. 3 senior law enforcement officials have earlier with their plans said. These officials, who asked for anonymity because they were not authorized to speak publicly about the plan, said they expect him to surrender to happen late this week. Plan has still been finalized as the source stressed that nothing is official yet. An attorney for Trump did not immediately respond to the request for comment Friday. Trump and the other defendants were charged with the racketeering and conspiracy in connection of the attempt to overturn the 2020 election. Trump has denied any wrongdoing. Fulton County District Attorney Fannie Willis gave Trump and other 18 co-defendants until next week Friday to surrender. A British nurse has been found guilty of murdering 7 newborn babies and trying to kill 6 others at the hospital neonatal unit where she worked. Becomes the UK's most prolific child killer. Lucy, led by 33, had been on a trial since October last year, accused of injecting her sick or premature young victim with air, overfeeding them with milk, and poisoning them with insulin. She was also sending a disturbing message to colleague and eventually served as crucial evidence against her. A text message revealed that she had contacted her colleagues following the infant's death and in response received sympathy from the on-ward staff members. The message also indicates that she volunteered to take additional shift in a neonatal intensive therapy until at the counters of the Chest Hospital. As reported by the journalist, the unsettled text message illustrated reaction and concern escalating regarding the sudden increase in infants' fatalities in the hospital. Australia's Victoria State will pay $380 billion to Commonwealth Games organizers. Victoria Prime Daniel Andrew said on Saturday after its withdrawal as 2026 event host citing a projected cost blowout. Victoria in July pulled out of hosting a quadrennial multi-sport event which was to have been held in 4 region hub, and Andrew saying cost has been balloted to more than $7 billion from the budget $2.6 billion. The decision has raised the possibility that the Games may not take place for the first time since being cancelled due to the Second World War in the joint statement issued by the Andrew on Saturday. The Commonwealth Game Federation, Commonwealth Game Partnership, Commonwealth Game Australia and Victoria said that they settled all their disputes regarding the cancellation of the multi-hub regional Victoria 2026 Commonwealth Game. An Indian origin laboratory owner from the U.S. state of Georgia was sentenced to 27 years in prison for involvement in a USD 463 million genetic testing scam spanning over 3 years to defraud Medicare. Meenal Patel, who owned Lab Solution LLC, was sentenced on Friday to 27 years in prison for his role in a scheme to defraud Medical by submitting over USD 463 million in genetic and other laboratory tests that patients did not need and were prosecuted through the payment of kickback and bribes. The 44-year-old conspiracy with patients broadcast telemedicine company and call center to target medical beneficiaries with a telemarketing calls false starting with their package covering expensive cancer genetic tests, the Department of Justice said on Friday. U.S. President Joe Biden said Friday he expects to meet Chinese leader Xi Jinping later this year despite taking a series of shots at the rival power. Biden held his first meeting as president with Jinping in November 2022 in Bao, where they agreed to work to manage high tension between the world's 2 largest economies. Biden answering a shortened question after meeting the leader of Japan and South Korea said, "I expect and hope to follow up on our conversation in Bao this fall. That's my expectation." Biden is inviting Jinping in November to San Francisco, where the United States holds the summit of the Asia Pacific Economic Cooperation Forum, which will include China. The 2 leaders could potentially also meet next month in New Delhi on the sideline of the summit of the group of 20 major economies. This is International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network. We return after this break.
Every day our lives are changed by history.
We are one people, all of us.
Leaders, politics.
Nobody's ambition is what they blood.
I have fought very firmly.
Natural occurrence, war, and the world economy.
I belong to everybody, and I belong to nobody.
ATN covers it all on ATN Politics today.
Welcome back. This is International Tit Bits on Atlantic Television Network, and now to the rest of our stories. Bushra Bibi, the wife of Pakistan Tehreek-e-Insaf Chairman Imran Khan, has raised concern about her husband's security and safety and said he can be poisoned in ad hoc jail, reports Geo News. Nusra Bibi sent a letter to the Punjab Home Secretary and said the court has directed authority concerned to shift her husband to Aditya Jail in Warafidi. She said, "My husband has been poisoned in Atok jail without any justification. According to the law, my husband should be transferred to Adedia jail." Former Prime Minister Imran Khan was arrested earlier this month after the court sentenced him to 3 years in prison in a Toshkahana case related to the sale of state gifts they received as a prime minister from foreign dignitaries during his 2018 to 2022 tenure, reported. However, Khan was also barred from politics for 5 years. A United Airlines pilot hit its breaking point and took out his frustration on the parking lot arm with an ex near Denov International Airport. Authorities says Friday Kenneth Hansen Jones, 63, was accused of criminal mischief stemming from the August 2 incident. According to the incident reported by the Adam Court Sheriff Office, deputies were dispatched about 2 p.m. to the parking lot in the shadow of DIA parking lot employees. Rick Stevens, 64, confronted Jones, who refused to drop. An ex-official said, but men were uninjured during the confrontation and ended the pilot losing possession of the potential weapon, the sheriff report said. Kenneth ran across the street and behind a building and stayed in a fleet until he was contacted by the Denver police. A former New York St. John Buckley, an earlier agitator for and President Richard Nixon's resignation and winner of the lawmakers' lawsuit challenging campaign spending limits, died Friday at age 100. Buckley died at a hospital in Washington, D.C., according to his son David Buckley of Arlington, Virginia. Buckley was the fourth of the 10 children of the millionaire oilman and brother of the consecutive commentator Williams F. Buckley Jr., who died in February 2008 and was last He was last survivor of the 10 siblings. Buckley was the sole Conservative Party candidate to win statewide office in New York, elected to the U.S. Senate in 1970 in a three-way race with 39% of the vote. Republican St. Charles Gordio, who was appointed to the job in 1963 after the assassination of Senator Robert F. Kennedy, and Democratic Rep. Richard Otinga split the moderate vote, allowing Buckley to capture the seat. Joining me in today's conversation is an international affairs analyst, Mr. George Kingsley Papame. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. It's good to have you. All right, let's look at the story for our conversation. A British nurse has been found guilty of murdering 7 newborn babies and trying to kill 6 others at the hospital neonatal unit where she was working, becoming the UK's most prolific child killer. Lucy Letby, 33, and has been on trial since October last year, accused of injecting the sick of the premature young vitamin and A, overfeeding with milk and poisoning them with the insulin. She was also sending this disturbing message to colleagues and eventually served as a crucial evidence against her. Her text message revealed that she has contacted a colleague following the infant's death and in response received empathy from onward staff members. The message also indicated that she volunteered to take an additional shift in the neonatal intensive therapy unit at the Countess of Chester Hospital. As reported by the journalist, the unsettling text message illustrated her reaction as concern escalating regarding the sudden increase in infants' fatalities in the hospital. Now, Letby is seen as most prolific serial killer in Britain, and she has been arrested before and then released twice. And then, I mean, on her third release in 2020, she was formally charged with and held in a custody. During search at her home, police found hospital paperwork and a handwritten note where she puts down, I cannot take care of these children. I will never be a mother. I don't know what it, I will never know what it means or what it takes to have a family. So I cannot take care of these people. But what baffles me, not really her notes, because it's more like she is working based on psychological issues here. A report has been placed down since 2015, 2016, yes, has been placed down. I can imagine you have somebody working in an organization and people has been complaining about this particular person. People die in the hospital nearly every day, babies, and patients have been, instead of getting well, the condition is becoming critical. And then I saw something the doctor wrote that the first time he brought complaint about let by, the hospital authority asked him to apologize to her. And this keeps coming, and they have already arrested her twice and released her, like we said. So why didn't the hospital, why didn't they take this into, they did not look into this matter and work on this and look at it critically and know exactly what is going on? And again, was there no CCTV camera in there in the hospital? This is a place where souls have been taken care of. Was there no CCTV camera there? A whole stuff is just becoming complicated because it's not just a day story. It's something that has lasted for years.
Yes.
What's your take on this?
Yes, when we are talking about a nurse, I think we should first of all be able to examine what a nurse can do. Then, if we are able to identify what a nurse can do, and then we can also look on how a nurse who is or who was trained to care for lives, to save lives. That was what she was trained for. She was not trained to be a killer, right? So for somebody who is trained to be a lifesaver, it is assumed that she has such skills, and such skills have been with her all this while. But until 2015, according to records, we come to understand that she started changing her trend of or her actions to her duty in a different dimension. That is to say that where an issue has been raised concerning her activities, I think the doctors would have actually undertaken an examination first, and then conducted, also set up a panel to investigate the activities of the led by activities. But here, I think according to the report that we were able to lay our hands on, I think we found out that the owners of the hospital, that's Chester Hospital, I think they were not actually serious about the matter because they trusted in her. They confided a very big trust on her that she wouldn't do that. All right? They leaned their trust on her, maybe based on her performances, yes, and her activities, and they didn't look on the other side. As you earlier said, there would have been a CCTV that would have given them a true picture right from the time complaints started coming. All right? Since the complaint has started coming, what they would have done is to say, okay, for the fact that this thing has happened, for the fact that two babies are dead now, before the other babies came, the cases came in, they would have also examined what has happened and also heard from the doctors. But
let's look at it this way. And come to think of it, we are talking about a CCTV camera.
Yes.
And looking at the pattern of her killing, she injected them with overdose milk, hair, and all those stuff.
Yes.
It means that even if the camera has captured whatever thing she was doing, it will not still show that that stuff she's doing is devilish. Because remember that we are talking about trust here. It's not just someone that is not just an unprofessional nurse that stepped into the hospital. She is the one, and she's doing what she's supposed to do. So do you think it would have been easy for CCTV camera to detect this?
What we're saying here is that yes, CCTV would have, because every hospital for a patient has a file, right? And before a nurse lays her hand on any patient, I mean, she has to go through the file, and whatever doctor that is coming ahead of the examination of the patients will also look at the file. They work with instructions from the file, and if she don't have anything to do with the babies, and she's there touching the babies or doing that, the camera would have shown her activities. That's what we're talking about. Her activities is what we're concerned with, because without her activities there would be no negative result. But because of her activities, that is what the hospital refused to examine. They refused to examine her activities, and if they have found out that she has such problems, first they would have taken her to psychiatric hospital to examine level of thought.
Now talking about psychiatric, let's look at what she said here.
Yes.
You know, this note is not something that they wrote in a day. It's something, let me say, this is my diary. It has been in the house. And then she said, I am evil.
Yes.
I did this to kill them on purpose because I am not good enough to take care of them.
Yeah.
On another note, she wrote, I will never have children or marry. I will never know what it is like to have a family. Boredom. So do you think with all this, a woman carrying all this in her head, that she will not act abnormal at some point?
Yes. What we are saying here is that even if she has acted, or she will act normally, all right? The psychiatric test will definitely define her position health-wise. And then if they find her to be fit and she's doing this act, then one will interpret it that there's something wrong somewhere. That is to say, she is evil. All right, she is evil, as the court has said that she is guilty of the charges. I think she should face the penalty, because it will be a deterrent to others who are in several hospitals now, because I mean around the world. People should know that nurses are there to take care of lives and not to destroy. And if if some of them have formed a habit of taking people's lives, I think proper examination need to be done to stall such activities and to stop such acts, because killing of patients is not only in one hospital. You can count it severally in several hospitals. It has been taking place. But at this time that such issues are coming to us to actually know that people no longer act on morality, they are now forming immorality against their fellow human beings. I think that act should be corrected, because if it is not corrected at this time, that the secrecy of what nurses are doing in hospitals and what doctors are doing in the hospitals are not properly examined, I think more lives will go. So it's an eye-opener for all those who have hospitals and such health institutions to start to make up arrangements to see that what's in patients that are put in their custody are well taken care of, are not killed. Because it's not only the children, we're talking about children here, but what about adults? Adults that are in that hospital that have gone without people's notice. So these are the things that hospital owners should check. I think doctors in various hospitals are entrepreneurs. They should check this trend and advise their patients and advise their nurses to make sure they step up efforts to eradicate this act, so that people will have trust in them.
I totally agree with you. This is an eye-opener, and it's high time doctors, the authorities in the hospital keep their eyes down to know what is going on, because hospital is somewhere that you're supposed to go with the last hope. Okay, yes, as I get to this place, I hope to come back healthy. But in a situation that the person that's supposed to protect you is the one killing you, is a problem.
Of course.
I hope that she will serve the right punishments, not just I don't know, I don't want to mention it, let it not come from me, but I hope she will serve the right punishment.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Mr. George, for joining me on this conversation. That's the much we can take on today's episode of International Tit Bits. I am Immaculata Irikana. In case you miss out in any of the stories, you can join us on Facebook and YouTube at Atlantic Television Network, Instagram and TikTok at Atlantic TV Network 1, Twitter at Atlantic TV Net, or you can watch us live on our website at atlanticnetwork.tv. Do remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress, and continue to stay connected on ATM Social. Till we come your way next time.